by Oliver Velez and his team. So can I have a sound check, please? Everything okay? All right. Here. So, yes, welcome all of you. It's good to see a couple of new people here as well. So we have a nice, I think we have a nice size of a group here. Okay. Excuse me, guys. I just swallowed something and it went down the wrong way. So I have to start a little later, and my throat is still cleaning out a bit. Anyway, so welcome again. Let's get started here and go here to our first sheet. Start a little introduction here. So we are 3 traders here that are members from Oliver's Black Team, and we've been, all 3 of us have all been with Oliver for quite some time, many years. And I'd like to introduce to you, first of all, Tony Medina here on the left. Unfortunately, Tony is not here at the moment because he's doing some work in the house, but he's supposed to join us later. And then here there is Tyler Crandall. Tyler is in California. Oh, Tony is in Florida. Tyler's in California. And then here this is me hiding behind the sunglasses. That's me. I'm in Malaga, Spain. Okay. And let me tell you how this coaching program came to be, really. So when Oliver was on his first visit to Spain in 2018, we were traveling all over Spain together, and so there was a lot of time to talk about things. And so we talked about IFIN traders and what way some of the traders like me could contribute to this, to IFIN traders somehow. So Oliver suggested, he said, what I really need, he says, is some traders to help me to bring some structure to my new traders. That was really the key. And so he picked us, these 3 traders that you see here, and to do that and to be his coaches, and here we are. And we're always being accompanied by a translator for the Spanish room, because we all have a simultaneous Spanish room here, and that is Paola. So hello, Paola, good to see you here again. So what Oliver was saying is structure. What I really need is, what I see is that many beginning traders, they lack structure. They're really all over the place. So they get all this knowledge handed to them, all these concepts, but they get totally lost. And I would really like you guys to help them in that stage of their development. So that is really our main task, our main goal here. Our main goal is to help you to structure your trading. And basically what we're going to do, there's actually like 4 fundamental things here that we're going to do in this coaching. And the first one is we're going to pay attention to try and eliminate your biggest losses, because many traders, and I think most of you can relate to that, they lose big and they win small. Okay, that's of course not really the way to do it. So what we need to do is get those biggest losses out of the way somehow. All right, to improve your results. The other thing we're going to do is look how to actually trade well, and that we're going to do by presenting to you Oliver's checklists. This is basically the checklist that he also uses in his mentorship sessions, as well as in the live trading camp. Maybe somewhat different on small issues, but it's roughly the same thing. And then we're going to teach you how to journal your trades, how to make a proper trading journal. Actually, I think he just mentioned that in the Kickstart session. Hope all of you were in the Kickstart session. If you were not in the Kickstart session, then you're missing something, because all of you should be in there. Is there anybody who was not in the Kickstart session or did not know that there was a Kickstart session? Okay, all of you were there? Excellent. Okay, and then the fourth thing, that is actually the most important thing I believe from this coaching program is reviews. We are going to review your trades together with you. So the idea is basically that you're sending in a journal. If you want for each session, one journal about a trade that you would like to see reviewed here. And we're going to pick it apart together. We're going to see what we can learn from this trade. So everybody's learning from your trade as much as you are learning from other people's trades, right? And that is actually the thing that we'll be doing the most, okay? So, let's see here. So what does the overall program look like? So we have like 8 sessions, okay? In the first 4 sessions, we're going to spend the first half of the session basically to provide you with some basic knowledge and concepts and trading plan, etc. So in the first session, we're going to talk about, today I'm going to talk about how to lose correctly and risk management, okay? In the next 2 sessions, we're going to present to you that trading checklist, that famous trading checklist. And that's quite a lot of information, so we need to do that over 2 sessions. In session number 4, I'm going to talk to you and teach you how to make a proper trading journal, what things should be in there and how to mark it up so that all the information is there. And it will actually be connected to the checklist, okay? In the first 4 sessions, also today, the second half of the session we will spend on reviewing some of your trades. Okay, so some of the traders here have already sent in some journals, and Tyler is going to cover them. Tyler is going to go over those trades and dissect them and see what can be done to improve them. Okay, or also maybe if it's a good trade, then they'll just tell you it's a good trade. In session 5 to 8, the focus will be almost entirely on reviewing your journals. Okay, so by that time we have like the theory has been dealt with in the first 4 sessions. So first 4 sessions half. Session 5 to 8 predominantly trading reviews. Okay. And of course, there may also be an opportunity once in a while to take a look at the live chart if there's a reason to do so. Okay, that's also a possibility. Of course, also if you have any doubts or any issues, things that you would like us to cover, to talk about in some more depth, just send them in. Send us an email. After each session, I will be sending out the recording of the session almost immediately within a couple of hours or so. So you can just reply to that email. Coaching@iFundTraders is our email address. You just reply to that email and send in your journal, send in your question, whatever, so that we can go over those in the next session. Okay. So, are there any questions to this at this point? Any doubts? Is there anybody who thinks that maybe he signed up for the wrong program, then now is the time to step forward? And maybe we can still deal with that. Thank you, Carlos. Yes, Carlos has been with us for some months already. And look, he wants more. He keeps coming back. Fantastic. So yeah, Christopher Cruz. Yeah, we spoke on the Facebook. Excellent. Good to see you here, man. Very good. Okay, so let's move on here. So today, session number 1. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk about how to lose correctly. Okay, and basically that is going. I'm going to talk about 3 different issues. Going to talk about max loss per day, max loss per trade, and how to use that. I'm going to talk about stock selection. What stocks should you be trading? And I'm going to talk about whether you should be going to try and make money, meaning making profits, or that you should maybe devote some time to practicing instead. Okay, and how to deal with that. Those are the 3 themes that I will be discussing today. So let's start with the first one here. The first one is max loss per trade, which is a very important concept. It is like the cornerstone of your risk management. Okay. So why do we have a max loss per trade, right? Everybody knows MLPT means max loss per trade. Basically, with your trading account that is provided to you by iFund Traders, there is a max loss per day, right? You know that. And that max loss per day, why is that there? That's just not so much because iFund Traders likes to make your life difficult, but what it really is for is to protect you against financial catastrophe. Okay, you going wild and basically blowing up your account by going way over limits. So the thing is that one of the most important things in trading is to survive. Okay, you cannot allow yourself to be killed, meaning that you go wild, you're wasting all your money, or you're spending it, or you're losing it actually, and then tomorrow you're out of funds. That you cannot allow that to happen. Okay, and this is the reason why there is a max loss per day. It's like a hardwired stop where you will be stopped from trading. Now the thing is that that amount, that max loss per day, you're not supposed to risk that all on one trade. Okay, that is not the idea. Trading is a game of odds, so you basically need a couple of opportunities to make some money. So you really want a minimum of two opportunities each day. All right, you want to have at least 2 chances to do a good trade, or a winning trade, I should say, or at least not a trade where you will have a full stop out. Okay, minimum 2, maybe even 3. So you need to divide that max loss per day into pieces. Okay, you have to divide it, and this is something that you have to do. So where iFund Traders provides this to you, all right, this is something you have to pick for yourself. This is your own responsibility. So you have to pick it right. Let's talk about that. So, I see in the Spanish room, Carlos Del Valle. Hello, Carlos. Good that you made it here. So there will be a recording will be sent out to you after the session. So if you missed anything, then you can find that in the recording. Okay. Okay. So what is a good value for you to pick for your max loss per trade? Well, I just said you need at least 2 trades every day, right? So let's say that this is what you want to do. You want to make sure that you have 2 trades at minimum each day, okay? And by the way, this is the way I do it, for example, as well. So what you do is you take your max loss per day, you cut it in half, and you take a little bit off, okay? So let's say that you use, for example, 45% of your max loss per day, and this is how you calculate your max loss per trade. So that means that you can have two full stop outs and you're still alive. Okay, you still haven't hit your max loss per day. There's still a little headroom left, tiny little bit of room left, so to make sure that you do not get to this point, because you don't want to get here. This is not a point. Max loss per day or also max loss per trade is not the value where you start to act, right? No. The idea is that you start to act before you get to that point. You are supposed to be responsible and make sure that you never hit that point. So if your max loss per day, for example, is $200, you have to make sure that you start to close your trades, your losing positions before you get to $200. You're not supposed to end the day with $200 loss. $199 is okay. That's fine. $195 is fine. But 200 or 205 is not good. That means that you hit it or you even went beyond. Okay? So this is why the 45% there is there. All right. So let's take a look if you have 2 or 3 trades that you want to be able to do each and every trading day. Okay? Now we have two kinds of IFT demo accounts here, simulation accounts that are used in the company. There is the normal account and there is the fast track account. All right. So depending on whether you are on a normal account or a fast track account, you will have buying power either $50,000 or $100,000. All right. Now, if you have a $50,000 account, your max loss per day will be $200 as hardwired by iPhone Traders. If you have a 100K account, it will be $400. All right. Good. So now let's look at this one here. So let's say that we want to be able to do at least 2 trades every day. So how does that work? So I just pointed out you need like 45%. You take about 45% of your max loss per day. So you take 45% of $200 here. That brings you to $90 is your max loss per trade. So that would be the amount of money that you promise yourself you will not lose more than this amount on any given trade. Okay, your trade is approaching a loss of $90. You must start to close it and get out of there. Okay, that is the idea with max loss per trade. What that means, if you want to trade with 2 lots, and I'll get to talk. We'll talk about that in the next section. But if you want to trade with a minimum of 2 lots, that means that that you can afford a risk of 45 cents on a trade. 45 cents times 2 is 90 cents. For 100 shares, that means $90. Okay. So so that is basically, those are the numbers. Those are the numbers. If we're talking about a normal IFT account, 50K, and you want to make sure that you can do at least 2 trades every day. Okay. Norman is asking which slide. I see the MLPT slide. That's correct. I'm talking about the MLPT slide. Yes. So I'm not sure I understand your question. Is that okay? Yeah. Are we on the same frequency, Norman? Excellent. Very good. Okay. Now, so this is normal account, 2 trades per day. Now, suppose you want to you allow yourself, or to guarantee, I should say, you want to guarantee that you can do 3 trades every day, even if all 3 of them are maximum stop outs. Okay. Then what you need to do is divide your MLPD, your maximum loss per day. You divide it by 3 instead of 2 and take a bit off. So let's say we have 30% there, okay? So that means that if you still want to trade with 2 lots, which is highly recommended in most cases, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So maximum risk with 2 lots would be 30 cents. Now you can only allow yourself 30 cents on any given trade with 2 lots, and you will be risking at most $60 on each trade. And as I said before, this is your responsibility. No one is enforcing this. IFT is not going to do anything about it. If you are going over your own limits here and blowing away $150, nobody's going to stop you. However, if you make it here, then iPhone traders will come there and pull the plug for you, which is not something you want to happen. We'll talk about that. Okay. Now the same for, suppose you have a fast track account. So now we're talking about the 100K account here. And you want to do a minimum of 2 trades per day. So now you take 45% of $400 as your max loss in any given trade. You will never lose more than $180 in any trade. And that means if you want 2 lots, that you can now use a stop of 90 cents on any trade. Okay? If you don't like that, if you think that 2 trades is not enough and you want to have actually guaranteed 3 opportunities, then you can bring that down, and then we get to 120 or 60 cents per 60 cents per share that you can risk on this trade. All right. So this is how you calculate your own max loss per trade. Carl Lemillen, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Carl Lemillen, is saying, does that mean that we never take a 1-lot trade? No, that is not necessarily true. However, you do want to take in most cases, you would like to take a 2-lot trade. So what you should be doing is like in 70-80% of your trades should be 2-lot trades or 3-lot trades, whatever. So 1-lot trades should be an exception. If that is not the case, if you find that you're always in a 1-lot trade, then there's something wrong, and we'll talk about that in about 15 minutes or so. Okay? Hope that answers your question. Any other questions here at this point? It's very important that you understand this calculation, okay? And because you need to do this for yourself, you have to sit down later today and actually make sure that your max loss per trade is calculated roughly according to this plan, okay? And that you protect it. Any other questions here? Edward Salem is saying, are you saying our first entry should usually be 2 lots? Exactly, Edward. That's what I'm trying to say. A minimum 2 lots. I mean, 3 lots is fine as well. So, in another way, you could say that your first entry should rarely be only 1 lot. Rarely meaning it's okay if 1 in every 4 trades is a 1-lot trade. That's okay. But if half of your trades are 1-lot trades, then there's something wrong, and I'll talk about that in a little while, why that is a problem. And the first add you're asking, the first add can be adding another lot to make the 2. No, that's not really what I'm talking about. I mean, that is nice, of course, because then you promote your 1-lot trade to a 2-lot trade. However, you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity. Okay. So I'm really talking about 2 lots right from the start. Carla Mellon is asking, how do you arrive to calculate 2 lots 45 cents? I don't understand the calculation. Okay, I'll go over that once again. That is this one here. Okay. So if you have 2 lots, that means you have 200 shares. Okay. So we're in a normal account here with a max loss per day as configured by iPhone traders of $200. All right. So we have $200, and roughly the idea is you divide that by 2 because you want 2 trades per day, right? Divide that by 2, so you can risk like $100 max on any trade. However, as I told you, you do not want to really hit that number, so you have to take some off. So instead of 100, let's use 90. Okay, we allow ourselves $10 headroom away from the 100. And then if you want to if you have 2 lots here, okay, 2 lots, that you divide that 90 by 2, and so you get to $45 per lot. And a lot is 100 shares, so we divide that by 100, and this is how we get to 45 cents. Does that answer your question? Is it clear now, Carl? Excellent, perfect. So, all right. So if everybody is okay, if everyone has understood this, then we can now move on to the next section, right? So to finalize, so how do we use max loss per trade? Once again, whenever you reach max loss per trade on any trade, so you need to close it immediately. And actually, this text is not correct. What I should say here is, whenever you approach, right? It's about approaching. You do not want to hit that number. You try to avoid it. Okay. This is absolutely a very important value, and this, for many people, this is very difficult to respect this. And I'm promising you, I do that in every series, I'm promising you that over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of trades that we review where actually the trader is not respecting his max loss per trade. Usually, or often, the trader is not even aware of that until we point it out. Okay? So you see this great trade where they're shorting 3 lots, whatever, and there's adding And we're starting to calculate what is your risk now. Let's look at the stop, and you will find that the trader is really not respecting the stop there in the right way, okay? The max loss per trade in the right way, okay? So, of course, whenever you add to the trades, you will also influence the location, or it may influence the location of your stop, because max loss per trade is more important than anything. All right. So we'll see a couple of examples of that to clarify that. Okay. So another thing that I need to point out is that it's not like we always use max loss per trade for each and every trade. Okay. It's not like you put your stop and max loss per trade is the value. No. There are many cases where you want to use a different kind of stop, which usually we refer to as an event stop. This is things that we are going to talk about in the next session when Tyler will talk about the checklist. Okay. However, so don't mix those things up. It's not so that you have to use max loss per trade as your stop for each and every trade. Definitely not. When to use max loss per trade as your stop, that's something we will talk about in the next session. For now, what you need to know is that you cannot allow any of your trades to go beyond max loss per trade. Okay? So let's take a quick look here to clarify how that works. So there's an example here. This is a chart from Twitter from a couple of years ago. And trader here has a max loss per trade of $225. Now that is a weird number, I know, but that is because before the risk parameters used to be different for the accounts, and this is where this number comes from. Okay, so don't pay attention to the number; it's about the concept. So for this trade, for this trader, the max loss per trade was $225. Now let's say that we have this chart here. So we identify here a bear elephant bar, and we enter by confirmation below the low. Okay, so shorting 3 lots here, is that okay? Well, you should always verify this immediately. Let's say we're entering roughly at 31.30 here, right? And here, let's say that we put the stop here. Okay, the stop is at 80. So that means that we have 50 cents risk here. 50 cents risk per share here. Okay, so that's $50 per lot, assuming a lot size of 100. $50 per lot, and we have 3 lots. So the risk that we have in this trade is 3 times $50 is $150. Meaning we enter here, but if this thing goes this way and we get being stopped out, we lose $150. So the question is that okay? Is that correct? Are we trading within our within our trading plan, the risk that is that we have chosen for our trading plan? And the answer is yes, because look, $150 here is less than $225. See? So this is perfect. It's quite all right to do that. It's quite all right to short 3 lots here. As a matter of fact, we could have even shorted 4 lots here, and we would still be within the risk parameters. Okay? Shorting 5 lots is a problem, because with 5 lots we would have $250 risk in this trade. Okay, and that means that now we are actually trading outside of our risk parameters. Is this clear? Any questions on this? Okay, so now let's move on. Now let's add to the trade and see what happens. If we add to the trade, so at this point here we entered, right? And we already have $150 loss now, $150 risk in our trade. So now we're going to add at this point, roughly, we're going to add, well, let's say we're adding at 10 here, and the stop is at 80, right? I mean, we have the same stop here. So now that means that we have 70 cents of risk that we're adding to the trade, which is $70 per lot. Okay, so now, in fact, our risk is $220. Question, is this okay? Answer, yes, this is okay, because we are still operating within the maximum loss per trade that we are allowing ourselves, that we have promised ourselves that we will respect, okay? So if this trade from here, from the ad, goes all the way straight up and we're being stopped out, we're losing $220, but that's okay, because that was part of the plan, because that is what is below the maximum amount that we would allow ourselves to lose. Okay? So, next sheet. Now, so at this point here, we have $220 in risk, right? So now the question is, say we want to add again here at this point, for example. Say we want to add here again, but the stop is still here. And let's assume that the stop is not being moved. There's no reason to move the stop here, okay? So that would mean that now we are actually adding another 80 cents of risk to the trade, or actually here I'm using 70 cents. It doesn't matter, 70 or 80. Let's say 70, okay? So in that case, we're getting now to $290 risk in this trade. And now there's a problem, because that $290 is more than the 225. All right. So this ad we cannot do. You should not be doing this ad. If this happens, so if you add to the trade, and what happens is that you would be violating your max loss per trade, unless you if you're violating your max loss per trade, then there's a problem and you skip that ad. What you cannot do is add to the trade and then just adjust the stop by the amount that is needed to respect max loss per trade, because our stops, we pick our stops based on the market structure. The stop always has to be in a logical place. Where does it have to be? This is something that we will be talking about in session number 3, when we will be talking about stop adjustments, where to put the stop, and initial stops in the next session actually, okay? So so the stop has to be in some logical place in the chart, and from there you have to calculate. And if that means that you're going over your risk limit, then you have to skip this ad. Is this clear? Is this understood? Any doubts about this? And as I said before, I promise you we're going to see numerous events from many of you in your journals where you're actually violating these rules, probably even unaware of it. Okay, and that's one of the things that we're going to try and teach you in the next month, to actually see that when it happens and to act accordingly and to respect your risk limits. Okay. So this is a part of how to lose correctly, okay? How to lose correctly, very important. So finally, so again, oh, there was a question by Simon. Simon was asking, when stopped out, but our risk is within the limit, but there is slippage, is that a problem or no? Yes, that is a problem, meaning you should budget for the slippage, okay? You should make sure that you can pay the bill. And that means that you already start closing the trade, assuming that you will have slippage. You see what I mean? So, so that's the right way to do it. You cannot say, oh, I closed the trade, and instead of $100 max loss per trade, I will stop that at 110. But it's not my fault, because I didn't want that. You know, it's the market's fault. It gave me slippage. That's not the way it works, Simon. I'm sorry. It's not the way it works in this world. So you have to assume responsibility for the slippage. Okay, and of course, sometimes this will go wrong. Of course, but the point is that if you do this correctly, like 9 out of 10 times, there's no problem. You're doing a great job. If 1 out of 10 times, or even maybe 2 out of 10 times, you just hit that max loss per trade, or you just go over it by a few dollars, that is quite all right. You're doing an awesome job. Okay, but don't make sure that this is not something that happens like 50% of the time, because then you are doing something wrong. Okay, so Carl is asking, just to be sure, we are talking about minimum trade. Is there a maximum? What if I do near 5 to 10 by day? Is it too much? Because my max limit is $40. Okay. No, you should not. It's not so much. You should not be dividing the max loss per day by the total amount of trades that you take during a day, during an entire day. What we're talking about here is like the open. Okay, so your first 2 trades, for example, you should make sure that you can at least do 2 trades, because otherwise, you see, trading is a game of odds. You cannot know if your trade is going to work or not. You know that maybe that the odds are in your favor, but that doesn't mean that that trade is not going to be stopped out. Okay, so if the first trade, you take that trade and it's a full stop out, then you want to be able to do a second trade. That's the idea. If you have like 2 trades in a row that are both a full max loss stop out, and you have basically spent your budget for the day, that's okay. That's acceptable. That will not happen very often, probably. Okay? So that's the way to look at it. So my recommendation is to divide by either 2 or 3, depending on what you like to do. The advantage of 3 is, of course, that it's more than 2. The disadvantage of 3 is that your max stop and it will be lower, will be less, and you may run into problems more often when you cannot afford a trade. All right? Carl is saying, okay, so for the open, I don't have to stay at 45 max loss per trade. I can go for $90, just as you discussed. Exactly, Carl. If you go for $90, and I'm assuming you are talking about a $200 max loss per day, okay? That means that you basically have, you guarantee that you can do, that you can always do a minimum of 2 trades every day. Maybe you can even do 10 trades, right? If you're lucky, if you have a couple of winners and you have no big stop outs, you may be able to do 10 trades, no problem. But as a minimum, you can take 2 trades that you have just guaranteed by picking this number, 90. Okay? If your first 2 trades are both $90 losses, then you are at minus $180 or $190 with slippage, whatever. You're very close to the 200. You cannot trade anymore. You'll have to let the day go, and tomorrow is another day. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so another reason for this 5% headroom, why is it that you don't want to hit max loss per day? Well, each time that max loss per day gets hit, you should look at it this way. That is basically, there is a little check mark going behind your name in IFT's book, okay? Because when you graduate, one of the things that they're going to look at is, are you a responsible trader? Do you manage your capital in a responsible way? Meaning, are you respecting your risk parameters, or do you need someone else, meaning a computer or so, to actually take you out of the trade and to force you to respect your risk parameters? Or can you do it yourself? That is something that is very important, because imagine Oliver is going to put his money in your account for you to trade with, right? Why would he put his money in your account if you cannot prove to him that you are a responsible trader with his capital? This is one of the ways that you prove that, okay? So that doesn't mean that you will never be taken out by the system, but try to minimize that, okay? It should be rare. If you hit max loss per day and the system takes you out once a month, nobody's going to complain about that. That's okay. Is that a good guideline? So remember, IFT wants to see you closing your positions before their system has to do it for you. Okay, that's a sign of weakness. All right. So that concludes the first part here. So we're going to the second thing I'm going to talk about, and that is stock selection. What stocks should you be trading, and why is that the case? Need to talk briefly about a concept called volatility. Volatility is because volatility is really the thing that allows whether you can trade a stock, yes or no. It's not the buying power. Buying power is not the problem. What it is that is important here is actually the movement of the stock. Okay, which is called the volatility. All right. So those are the price swings up and down, and you have to be able to absorb them, to trade with stops outside of the volatility box. That is the whole idea. If you cannot do that, if your stop is inside of a volatility box, meaning too tight, you will be nicked out all the time, and you will not be able to make a profitable series of trades. Okay, so there's two things that you really need to look at. So one is volatility, and the other one is the spread. You don't want to trade stocks that are really spready, because if the spread, meaning the difference between the ask price and the bid price, is too big, say for example that the difference is 10 pennies, right? You should add that because to your risk. I mean, if you buy here, bid, sorry, not big, bid. If you buy here and a fraction of a second later you sell again, you have already lost 10 pennies, right? So that's a problem. So you cannot allow the spread to be too big here. Something to take into account. So spread and volatility. Now let's take a look at that. How does that work? So this is what most traders are hoping for when they start in a trade, right? So let's say you're going long here, and what you're hoping is probably that we start out here and we move straight up to the profit target, and we're done. We're going to the beach, we order a cocktail, and we're going to brag about how great our trading day was, right? Unfortunately, that is not the way it works, and I'm sure most of you have already found that out. In reality, it's more like this. This is how stocks move. So if you're in a long position, what you really will see is that the stock is swinging up and down towards the target. And this is the volatility at work here, these swings. That is your volatility, right? So what is the important thing here is, oh, by the way, here you see how that may look when you look at candlesticks instead, right? So what is the problem here? The problem is that you should be able to afford stops that absorb that volatility, so that allow the stock to make these swings. So for example, if you put your stop here, you should comfortably be able to let the stock just rally up without moving that stop. If you put your stop here and immediately you put it here because this risk is already $2, for example, and you can actually not afford it, right? So you're already running against your max loss per day and maybe your max loss per trade, whatever, and you move that stop too quickly, what's going to happen is you're constantly being stopped out. Why? Not because the stock is too expensive, not because your buying power cannot buy the stock. You may very well be able to buy 200 shares of the stock. However, it's just moving too much, too wildly, in a sense where it will actually take you out. You have a problem to afford a proper stop here. Is this concept clear? Do you understand why this is actually the problem here? The problem is the volatility and not the buying power. Okay. So, so what are good stocks? Now, what you really like to have in the majority of your trades. And what is majority? Well, let's say like 75% or so, or 80%, whatever. Okay. It's not a fixed number, but in most of your trades, you want to see that you can afford 2 lots, not 1 lot. Now, there will be trades where you cannot afford 2 lots, and still the setup, it looks really juicy. It looks like a great opportunity, and you want to take it anyway. That's fine. You jump in with 1 lot because you can only afford 1 lot. That's fine. But if you find that this happens more than like say 20% of the time, then you're doing something wrong in your stock pick. You're picking the wrong stocks. Your stocks are probably too volatile and you have to go down. Okay? So you want 2 lots minimum. Another thing is to look at this is you really would like to be able to allow a proper stop, meaning like an event-based stop, for example, on elephant entries. So for example, if you have a bear elephant bar here, okay, you're entering here in that bear elephant bar, you should be able to afford a stop above that bar. Okay, and of course 2 lots short here. Okay, so you sell 2 lots, your stop should be here. There should not be a problem. This means that the risk here should be easily fitting into your max loss per trade. Okay, that is a good stock for you. And the same with pivots. The pivots, so meaning the stock is going up and down, and you need to be able to put that stop here and then actually afford that you wait until here before you move that stop again, etc. Okay, and maybe there's another stop adjustment in between here, but you should not be cramped here where you have to go bar by bar all the time. Otherwise, you're just you're blowing through your risk parameters. You see? Okay, and then of course, even better, you also would like to have some room to add to the stock. Now, there are different ways of doing that, but what I'm trying to say is that if you always, on the first entry, you're always already using max loss per trade practically, then there's also something wrong. There should be enough trades where you don't need to use max loss per trade. So say your max loss per trade is $180, for example. If you, on average, get in a trade with 2 lots and you're risking $100, that's beautiful, because that means that later, if there's an add opportunity, you may be able to add to that trade. Now you're trading, right? That is trading, what you're doing there. Also, with 2 lots, you can afford to take profits on 1 lot and let the other one run. Okay, with 1 lot, you cannot do that. You don't know when to get out of the trade. It's very difficult. It's all or nothing. It's a gamble in a way, right? So this is why you need 2 lots to trade in most cases. All right? So let's take a quick look at this. There's a trade here. This is an infamous stock by the name of Roku. I'm sure you all have heard about Roku. Roku is notoriously volatile, right? And let's see how that works out. So we see here, this stock is opening here. This is also from a couple of years ago. So let's say that we have the Fabulous 4 here. I'm assuming you know what that is. If not, we will cover all of this in depth in the next session, okay? So here's our Fabulous 4, and this stock is opening here. This is the first bar here, okay? So it's opening here with this bar. This looks really nice because this stock is actually testing the Fabulous 4 here and then taking off. So it's in a great position for a long trade, right? So you'd like to go long here. Now the only problem with that is, look at this. Don't know if you can read that, but here you see what the price levels are for the high and the low. Okay, so already here we have like $1.25 in risk on this bar. Meaning that if you have, for example, if you have a 50K account with a $200 max loss per trade, and you're decided to use a $90 max loss per trade, which is actually, I think, the maximum you could realistically pick there, okay? You couldn't take this trade. It's not possible because already the risk is too big. You want your stop at least below this bar, okay? You want to give the stock the room because the volatility, in this case, it follows through, but the volatility, well, maybe it first goes back here and then it goes up. That's very well possible. You don't want to be nicked out all the time. You need to give it that room, okay? So, and then we have to add the spread here because this is a very spready stock. This stock, and it's, I think 10 cents is even, that's average. I think at times it can even be 20 or more. So let's say add 10 cents. So we have already $135 in risk if we only pick 1 lot here. So even if you have a 100K account, a fast track account, right? And in that fast track account, so it comes with a $400 max loss per day, right? Now, so we divide that by 2, take a little bit off, and we saw that 180 is a good pick for max loss per trade, okay? So already, even with this $180 max loss per trade, yes, we can afford this trade. We can, but only one lot. See that? So it becomes a one-shot thing here. It's just do or die. That's basically what it is. Either it works or it doesn't work. That's not what trading is really about. There is no plan here. It's just all or nothing. It's more like gambling, in fact, right? And again, it's okay to gamble in 20% of the cases when you have a good reason to do so. But if this is the majority of your trades, there's something very wrong. All right? So quick look at a similar trade here in Facebook. Facebook is another one of those stocks. Mind you, today it's trading at $324 right now. And this is in the good old days when it was still trading at $228. Look at this beautiful topping tail bar here, right? Topping tail bar below the Fab 4. This is a beautiful short. Absolutely, it's a great short, but that's not the only question you have to answer, whether this is a great short. You also have the answer to answer the question, can I afford this great short? In my circumstances, with my trading account, is this trade for me or is it not for me? Well, let's take a look. This thing here is $2, right? This is $2 already in risk. So with $2, and I'm not even adding a spread here or a slippage, etc. So you can easily add 20 cents here if you want to be realistic, and you get to $220 risk if you short with one lot here. Same situation as the last one, right? $220 risk. Can you afford that? Well, here with this parameter, you could just afford one lot here. See that? However, these are all the risk parameters. Today, even on a fast track account, your MLPT will probably be 180, as we have seen, okay? So even there, you would not even be able to take this beautiful trade. You cannot afford it. This is not yours. This is for more advanced traders that have bigger trader accounts that can actually absorb the volatility here, okay? So don't try to trade these stocks. You're gonna kill yourself. So what is trading then? This is more like what trading should be looking like. This is what you want to see here. So see, this is a trade. I'm not going to in the details of the trade, but pay attention to what's going on here. This is a trade where the trader can afford 2 lots. That's nice. Why is that nice? Because that will allow you later to take one profit and let the other one run to maximize the profit. Now that's trading. Now we're trading, right? And the stop is in a decent location. And look, there's an elephant bar here. So in this case, it's easy to absorb the risk from the elephant bar here with the stop in the proper location and 2 lots. Can even add to the trade. Look, beautiful. Add here to the trade. Now we have 3 lots in the trade already. Now we're really trading because now we can sell one lot, add one, sell another one. This is really what we want to see here. And then later, look, selling here, perhaps could even add here or here. So now you can actually do something. You see the difference? Does everybody understand this? This is trading, and this is what we're going to teach you how to do. This is what this whole coaching is really about, okay? This is what it's all about. And this, so this is not what it's about, okay? But if you happen to see this trade, and you, in 80% of the cases, you are trading this style here, and then you happen to see this beautiful opportunity, and you recognize that this is a really nice one, and you want to give it a shot with one lot, and it fits just in your max loss per trade, that's fine. That's fine. Don't ignore that, okay? But don't put your attention there, because you're looking in the wrong place, okay? Any questions about this so far? Carl is saying you're talking about a stop on an elephant bar, but can we put a stop to the RBI to be able to respect the sizing? Yes and no. yes, you can. If you have a good RBI, and that can be a good reason to put the stop below the RBI. There's nothing wrong with that. And that is definitely a possible initial stop. But that should not be your only way of trading. You see, you really want to be able to also play elephant bars, bull 180s, tail bars, the whole shebang, right? You want to do it all, and RBIs. So unless you decide that you're going to just forget about all those other events and you're going to focus solely on RBIs, there's something wrong there. See? So, I mean, from the point of view of stock picking. So let's take a look at how to pick your stocks then. Now that we know that the volatility is really the problem, right? So now the funny thing is that we're still coming back here to like price range, although I just explained to you that price range is not even the problem, right? However, usually the higher the price, the higher the volatility, but not necessarily so. It's possible there are stocks that trade at $100 that are more volatile than other stocks that trade at $200. Okay, you may be able to trade the $200 stock, but you may not be able to trade the $100 stock. But as a rule of thumb, as a global rule, this is a way that you can look at it. So never go below $25 per share. If you go below $25 per share, then you really get into an area where the quality of the stocks starts to get really poor. Okay, that's not a good idea. So anything that goes below $25 per share, just take it off your list. Now, if you have a 50K account, then you may want to make sure that your stocks are not more expensive than $60 to $80 per share maximum. Okay, but do look at the volatility. Look at a couple of days when they open and make an assessment. That opening elephant bar, that beautiful bar that I would have loved to trade last week, would I have been able to afford a 2-lot trade on that one with a stop under the low? That is the question you should be asking yourself. If in many cases you find that is not the case, then that stock is not for you. You see? Remember, at the open, you're probably looking at 6 to 10 stocks, okay? Let's say you're looking at 8 stocks. If half of those stocks already produce all these elephant events that are too big for you to trade, then why are you looking at them in the first place? You're looking in the wrong corner, right? Doesn't make sense. That's the whole idea. So these beautiful stocks that everybody loves, I know, don't trade them, okay? They are all way too expensive and way too volatile for you. And there are many more as well. Take them off your list if you have them on there. That's my strong advice. But look in this area, in the lower price stocks that have decent movement, because that's another thing. You also want the stock to move, of course. And pick from these kind of stocks. And these are not the only ones. There are many more, of course, that you could pick here. Okay. Now, if you are operating a 100K fast track account, then the guidelines are here. So still the minimum is $25 per share. That doesn't change, right? Because we're looking for quality stock. So you need a minimum of $25. Below there, they become more like garbage, okay? So you still don't trade the really big ones here, like Facebook and Nvidia, hundreds of dollar stocks, $250 stock here. You don't want to trade that. You can also add Microsoft here. That's another one that it's $250 right now. I think that is really out of the scope here, okay? Maybe you can trade it later in the day, because later in the day, the volatility is less than at the open. At the open, it's at its max, right? But at the open, you cannot trade Microsoft. But maybe later in the day, you'll just change the stock that you'll trade. Maybe you're trading Starbucks at the open, and you flip it from Microsoft after the open, for example. So what you can trade is the same stocks that you can trade on a 50K account, but you can go a little higher, like up to $125 or so. You may even be able to trade Apple, okay? You may even be able to trade Apple in many cases. Not all the time, though. There will be quite a few moments when Apple gives you an event in a great location and it's just too expensive. You can't do it. Okay, but in several other moments, Apple may very well present an event that you can trade. All right? Any doubts about this? Any questions? Now is the time to ask them. Don't be shy. Andrew is asking, is it good to get a fast track account? Yes, yes and no. Ultimately, I think it really depends on you as a trader, what it is you like to trade. But it is something to consider, I think. So I don't know exactly how that works, but I think you need to send an email to Dr. Dan. You have to pay a fee for an upgrade, and then your 50K account will be changed into a 100K account. I think that's how it works. I'm not sure. It's definitely something to consider because it will be easier for you to trade stocks that are a little bit more volatile, right? It will be a little bit easier. Okay. Norman is saying extra 10%, but maybe stay with lower risk. I'm not sure I understand that, but what you mean there, extra 10%? Extra 10% of what? Oh, 10%. Oh, right. You retain more, 10% more of the gains. Okay, once you graduate, 90% payout. Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. Okay. But I wouldn't focus too much on that. That's all nice and fine. But I would focus on first trying to graduate. First create the problem and then solve it. That's usually the best way to do it. Okay. Yeah, you need to bring in 6K instead of 3K, right, to graduate. That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you may want to look into that, Andrew. Yeah, I think in your control center there may be some video on that. This is a recording by Dr. Dan from maybe 2-3 years ago or so. I think I've watched it once. You may take a look there and see if that is something for you. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So stock selection. I think we're through. Yes, we're done with that one too. And take that off. So we have spoken now about max loss per trade. Okay. We have spoken about what stocks to trade. And now we're going to talk about the dilemma. Are you going to try and make profits, or are you going to allow yourself to practice? Okay. So the question you should be asking yourself is, what is my short-term goal? I mean, your long-term goal is clear. You want to become a successful trader. I get it. But in the short term, how are you going to get there? What is your short-term goal? So in the short term, are you going to try and make profits? Is that your plan? Now let's assume that this is what you want to do, right? Let's assume that you are going to try very hard to make profits. Now, how can you do that to be profitable? So how can you do that? Well, first of all, you should really be avoiding trades that you have not mastered yet. So, for example, you may want to zoom in on trading only bull elephant bars, right? Only elephant bars. That's all you trade. And until you really can do that and you're profitable there. But then you should also avoid trading anything else, because you haven't practiced trading RBIs, for example. Those elephant bars that you're trading, and maybe you want them in a particular location. Okay, so you're really restricting yourself, and you should be able to refrain from trading until finally something shows up that you want to take there, right? That's the first thing, because your focus here is on avoiding losses, because you want to be profitable. So you should try to avoid the loss trades, and things that you haven't mastered yet are probably going to be loss trades in the long term, right? So your motto here should really be, when in doubt, stay out. This is the old Wall Street adagio, right? When you don't know, then just stay out. Only play what you really know to do. So here you focus on making profits, meaning being profitable. And now let's take a look at if you are in the short term, you're more honing in on practicing. If that's what you want to do, then you should do the opposite. You should actually be taking all trades. Anything that you think is possibly a trade, you take it. You take it, you accept a possible loss, you journal the trade, you learn from your mistake, and that is the only way to make progress, right? By making those mistakes and learning, okay? So you're building experience here. You see the difference? In this case, because you want to be profitable too soon, you're not building any experience. You're not learning anything really. However, here, you are now allowing yourself to build that experience. So this is a totally different approach. And now the thing changed, because now when you are in doubt, you should not stay out. You should actually take the trade and make progress. You understand this? This is a dilemma. This is a problem. And of course, many beginning traders are dreaming of becoming consistently profitable. The sooner the better, right? And of course, all the experienced traders tell them, well, yeah, I'm sorry to break the news, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Maybe it's going to take a couple of years actually before you get there, right? It's hard work. And of course, all the beginning traders think, yeah, okay, but he's not talking about me. So if I'm saying most traders take many years before they become consistently profitable, everybody hears, oh yeah, he's talking about those other guys. He's not talking about me. I'm going to be profitable. How much? Oh, we have 7 months left this year. By December, I'm going to be profitable. I'm going to do it. That's the way they think. So you're just avoiding reality, really. But all traders think this way, right? And maybe, exactly, it sounds familiar, right? And maybe that's a good thing, because if you started this knowing how hard it is to reach your goal, you might not even want to start it anymore. Okay, you might already have popped out. So, okay. But in the meantime, what you should realize is, if you want this too soon, what you're really doing is pushing it actually further away, because you're not allowing yourself to become a better trader and to practice, right? This is the problem. So, so the harder you want this, the harder you want it, the harder it gets. The more you desire it, the further you're pushing it away. You see that? This is a big dilemma. This is a big problem. And I think it's very important to really think about this. So today or tomorrow, when you're walking the dog or you're taking a stroll or whatever, think about this. How do I feel about this? Am I going to allow myself the time to practice in order to become profitable? Or do I actually already want these gains too quickly, and am I going to get a problem practicing? Be aware of this dilemma, okay? Now, how are we going to solve this? We can't really solve it, but we're going to try and do both. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice. So I would advise you to take all trades and follow this one here, okay? Follow when in doubt, do not stay out. So if you see an opportunity or something that you think is an opportunity, just take the trade. Just because those losses and those, you're going to get, Oliver always says, you're going to get them anyway, right? So let's get them out of the way, the sooner the better. Let's not postpone that. Let's not push that to the future. Because if you don't know if this is a good opportunity for a trade, then you'd better find out that. Because if you don't know it now and you don't do anything about it, then you still won't know a year from now. Okay? So, when in doubt, do not stay out. But we're also going to work on our profitability anyway. How are we going to do that? In two ways. The first one, very important one, is we are going to pay attention to decreasing our losses. And not just any losses, because that is not possible. There's always losses in trading. Trading is a game of odds. There's always a chance that your trade gets stopped out. And don't forget that the stop outs are actually the overhead costs for the trading business, right? Each business, trading is a business. Each business has overhead costs. You have to buy goods maybe and work a little bit on them and then resell them for a higher price. Well, in trading, the costs are your stop outs. And then you have your winners, and the difference between the winners and the stop outs, that is actually your profit, right? That's the right way to think about it. So what you can do is avoid certain losses. And the way to do that is especially the big ones. The big losses, especially the losses that are unnecessarily big. This is something we're going to focus on in the next couple of weeks, or I should say that you should be focusing on. We're going to try to help you, but of course you have to do the work. So we're going to keep track of results, and we're going to analyze those big losses and provide feedback to you on how to avoid them. Okay, and on the other hand, what we're going to do is we're going to work on increasing your profits. Remember, I said before, most beginners, they lose big and they win small. And this is why they're losing traders, right? So what we need to do, lose big, win small. What that means is that we have to decrease those losses and increase the profits. How are we going to increase the profits? By training you to use Oliver's checklist to do well-structured trades and allow the trade to develop and to maximize your profits. So maximizing profits here and pruning those big losses. That is basically the plan here, okay? So we still get a little bit from both sides here. Dennis is asking, Jan, can you please expand on the portion of profit trading? How do you determine your your stop trading number per day? Okay. Well, that is really that's a little bit sidetracking, but I can maybe give you a quick answer there. It's not about a number of trades, really, right? First of all, it's not about that. It's not like as soon as you do 5 trades, you have to stop. I mean, that could be an approach. It could be, but it wouldn't be my approach. What you can do, though, is once you can make an amount of profits and say, whenever I hit that amount, I will not lose more than 50% of it. For example, say that amount is $200 for you, right? So whenever you have made $200 in gains, you can only risk $100 for the rest of the day. So you always will bring home $100. And you can take 20 trades then, it doesn't matter, as long as you make sure that you will bring home at least $100. And if that amount goes up, every $100, maybe you want to move up that to $200. And if it goes to 300, to 400, you may want to move that up to $300, you see? Is that an answer to your question, Dennis? Did I understand your question correctly? So to start would be 1-to-1 ratio like MLPT, MLPT. Yeah, well, I would be inclined to make that a little bit more than MLPT. For example, if your MLPT is like $200, maybe you want to take $300 as your first target. Okay, because remember, you like your winners to be bigger than your losses. So so 300 to 200 would be better probably. Okay. Okay, cool. Glad that helps. So let's move on here. So we're going to decrease losses and increase profits. Okay, and here's the plan of attack. I already said it many times. Your P&L is negative because you win small and you lose big, right? So the first angle is we're going to eliminate your biggest losses. And how do we do that? Basically, we're going to look. No, wait. We're going to collect 20 trades, and we're going to look what the biggest loss of those 20 trades was, and we're going to see if we find something in that trade that should be avoided in the future. As promised, you will see many cases where, for example, max loss per trade was not respected, and that's why this became a very big loss. Okay. Another thing is, of course, avoiding bad entries. Maybe you enter somewhere and there is really no event, or you enter on a good event but in the wrong location, things like that. Okay, things that give you really big losses. This is what we're after. These guys we need to track down, and we need to eliminate them. Okay, so and on the side of enhancing the winners, well, that's really checklist stuff like ads. Where do I take profits? How do I adjust my stop? Things like that. We get to talk about that in the next couple of sessions. Now, so how are we going to eliminate those biggest losses? I already pointed it out, and here's more details. So we're going to collect 20 trades. So there is a little sheet here that that you can find here. If you look in your Omnovia window here, your Webinato window, at the bottom right corner, there's a little folder there. If you click on that folder, then it should be in there. You should be able to download it. And in that folder, it says 20 trades minus 5. Okay? So you can download that sheet, and you can use it and fill it in to from now on. And maybe you can actually already start by putting in your trades from today, from this morning. Okay? All we're really interested in at this point is the date, the time, the stock, and the profit and loss. I'll get back to that in a second. So the important thing is, once you have a full list here, now you look in the profit and loss column here, and you look which one is my biggest loss. There it is. Okay, and that one you mark, and you make a detailed journal. Now you try to find your mistake, but you also send it in for review, so we can actually review it here in one of our sessions. And look if there is something in that trade that could be avoided. Did you respect your risk, for example, properly? Maybe you were trading an event in the wrong location. All kinds of things like that. Okay, so that you can, at the end, once you know this, you can write down, this is the reason. This was the reason for my biggest loss here, and you bring that with you to the next set of 20 trades. Okay, another set, start again. But now this here is in your mind. This is something you focus on. You're going to make sure that in those 20 trades, you're not going to make this mistake again. All right. So a couple of days later, you will have concluded another list of 20 trades, and there will be a different max loss per trade. A different max loss in that list. Okay. Pick that one, repeat, make a journal, send it in, we'll talk about it, look for if there is anything that we can find that you should be avoiding, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you do this, 20 trades on average, I think for most traders, it will take you about a week, maybe a little less, to complete one list of 20 trades here. Okay, so if you are would be doing this for the next 4 weeks that we are in this coaching series program, you will have 4 opportunities here to start and eliminate 4 of your biggest losses. Okay, so that is the plan here. So let's take a quick look at the sheet again. So so this is important. Write down the date and the time and the stock, and probably the time frame, okay, that you really want. This is not important at the moment, because we'll talk about that later in the checklist, and you will be able to add event and location. Forget about this part as well, also not important, okay? This is important, your profit and loss, because at the end you need to find which one is it, and then you can later write down the error here as well, okay? So here's an example by a trader that was in this program a while ago, and you see here, he actually also was filling all this stuff in here, but once again, that doesn't really matter. You can take all of this out. Whoop, whoop. So let's take this out. Okay, don't need to worry about this. So date, time, stock, and then he looked here at the end and he says, look, here is my biggest loss. I lost $182 here on this trade. Okay, so we looked at it. He made a journal. He sent it in to us. We discussed it here in this session, and we found out that what he really did is he added too many loss and forgot to calculate the risk. Okay, so this was the MLPT problem that I spoke about before, came out here. So he writes that down here, keeps it next to him on the desk while he's trading, so that in the next 20 trades he's aware of this. It's looking at him all the time, and he can try to avoid that in the next 20 trades. Okay? Are there any questions on about this? Any doubts? Who has been with us for a while? Who has been doing this and learned a couple of things, how to eliminate some of their big losses? So anybody who has been doing this over the last few months and says, well, it really helped me to progress here and eliminate some of my losses, my big losses. Yes, okay, good. Nice. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so to the new traders here in this group, you can see that some traders that have been with us already for a little longer here, they're very happy about this. They think it works, so I recommend that you start doing that. And again, as I said, start today by putting in your trades from today. Okay, so you already have 2, 3, 4, 5 trades in here, and then tomorrow you keep adding, and Wednesday you keep adding, etc., until you have 20 trades completed. Okay. On Wednesday, I will be asking you how many trades you now have in this list. So it better be a nice number. Okay? All right. Well, yeah, we already went over this, right? So yeah, nothing new here. Make a journal. Okay? So that concludes my part of this presentation. So we went over 3 things here. The first thing we spoke about was max loss per trade. Okay, what number should you be picking, and also how to respect it. Okay. The second thing I spoke about was stock selection. What stocks should you select and why? How volatility is really the problem and not the price of the stock. Okay, and how you want to make sure that in most trades you have 2 lots. And that you can afford a stop under an elephant bar, for example, without any problems. And then the last thing here is, so how are we going to work on eliminating unnecessarily big losses and get them out of your trading? So I would say good luck here, and we'll pick up on this on Wednesday. Tyler, your turn. I'm done. All right. Welcome back. Okay, Tyler is coming in a few seconds. So as we're waiting for Tyler, yeah, Dennis says, I'm learning more every time. And that is a very interesting thing, how many things, many concepts, as simple as they may be, okay? Even then, when you hear them for the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th time, there's always something new that you pick up. And the reason is that you have now internalized a part of the concept. It has become a part of you and the way you think. So now you have more room to pay attention to all kinds of details that you missed the first time, right? That's the way it works. That's the way it works. That's why even for us coaches, any presentation by Oliver is always gold, because they're, even though most of the things that he's talking about, I have heard them 100 times, you know, but I always find something in there that he's saying that I can't say I didn't know. That's not even the point, but it's like the way he phrases it. I'm just more ready to actually understand something particular in his presentation that I didn't really see that way in the past, right? And that is gold. That is fantastic. That's the way it works. Repetition is key. That's right, Dennis. And Tony even says, repeat, and what's the key word? Repeat, and Tony's slogans. That's right, Paula. You know, practice, practicar, percolate. Okay, exactly. Rinse and repeat. Okay. I see.
All right. Sound check.
Tyler activity, I think. I
Yeah,
don't hear you
I'm
though.
testing the microphone.
That's me. Oh, okay. Oh, my volume was off. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Ah. Okay, so I went and bought this new contraption. Thanks to Tony. Doesn't work. I can hear him, but I can't. The mic doesn't work, so I'm back on the old thing. So sorry about that. I'll do my best to hold the earbud thing in front of my face so that at least you can hopefully hear me with this one. So you guys are all set? You can hear me? We're going to go through some journals here. Yeah, it wasn't the expensive one. I was wondering if it was too inexpensive. Although my guess is there's some kind of software I have to download or something like that. Yeah, you're probably right, Dennis. But anyway, so number of people have heard Jan go through that first class. Did you pick up anything new this time? Stuff that you heard before, but it didn't sink in. Like what did you get that you didn't hear last time? Because it's interesting. I think it's good to point this out because there's a good portion, and it's more than half of you that are still here, and you know, oh, slippage. Okay, Jan and Tony and I, like, we've been listening to Oliver teach this stuff over and over and over again, and it doesn't seem to matter how many times we hear it. We need to have somebody smashing it into our heads, and we've seen a lot of people come and grow over the last 10 years or however long three of us have been here. And I'll tell you what, most people start doing whatever they think before they master any of this stuff, and then they end up failing. When you ask them why they're failing, they may blame someone else, but you can tell they haven't really practiced. They haven't really been methodical, right? So that's the hard part, like, and we're trying to teach you how to be methodical here. So we're going to go through some of the journals here, and let's see, what was this one? This one was Amsaraj, the name, and let's see, is that person here who made this journal? Let's see, I don't see that name in the list here. Who is this? All right. Well, anyway, we're going to go on with this one. And I believe that this journal also, we got a second version of it here. There we go. Talking about the mistakes that were made, etc. So here's Guild. Gotta say, not my favorite stock. I like that we drew in the Fabulous Four, right? Looks good. Nice bear elephant bar right here. Short 2 lots, perhaps a little late. I want to ask this question. Here's our bear elephant bar. And, I see written here, should have made anticipatory entry, right? And I like that because I think this is a bear elephant bar right here. And right here, I think it's a dual bear elephant bar, meaning that it's the size of 4 of these regular bars from yesterday. From high to low, you stack 4 of them together, and that's what you have here. So I do agree that that could be, that could be taken sooner. And then what would this be then, right? Let's say you entered here, right? What's this, what was missed here? Because this is right where the first entry was made, right? We have a nice, right, GBI add right here. And what would this profit take be then? Right? So I think, part of the error is looking for, 3 pushes or something like that when, if we start from the beginning, push 1 has already happened. Then you've got your green bar ignored, and then we've got the equivalent of one, by the time, from your entry, you've already got one push, and then a second push here. I think this has to be a profit take if you're in 3 lots, 2/3 of the position. And then I think adjust your stop to color because this is really far, right? This has dropped off a cliff. And moving your stop to here, I think is totally fine. So you guys understand that? Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, it's getting below the 20. It's way below the 200, and it seems to be at the end of a longer downtrend. There's nothing saying you can't re-enter here if you like. Not my favorite thing because it's already uh, reversed a massive move down. Here's a massive move down. You get 100% of the way back up, and then what? You want to start a new short? I mean, it did the thing that's low odds, right? Which is, explode to the downside and make a new low, and then it kind of goes undecided for the rest of the day. So interesting trade, right? So for whoever sent that one, thanks for sending that one along. I think it's very interesting. There's definitely room for profit there, but when things get far away, don't give it too much room. It'll snap back really hard, and you just don't know how far it'll go. And for those that are new, you're going to learn how to do this journaling yourselves so that you can make all your notes here. So because you need to be able to do that. That's part of the process, right? We will get to that. So I'm going to move on, and this is a nice one here from Greg. Take a look at. Greg came in a little later. Now this is after a rather large pullback, right? Rather large pullback. But it moved into a nice tight fabulous 4, right here. And then it took out a pretty significant bear elephant bar, an exhaustion bar, I would call it, right? If we draw in this first bar here, right? We draw this in. This pullback came in pretty far, but the place where this triggered, and that's an interesting thing that Oliver has thrown into the mix here. It's not the low of this bear elephant bar, it's where the trigger happens. And I think the trigger is in the 50% zone. I think that does give you the ability to make some profits. I think this fell really hard, however, and I don't think you would expect a new high, but I do think you would get a few pushes out of here. And then after this, and when it falls, you're just in a sideways box. You're asking for trouble. So I see the subsequent entries, but the chance of a long-term trend that's going to go up like this or down, it's not going to happen because you've created a new trap zone here. It's just going to ping pong all over this. You guys understand that, right? In here. After the first whale of the day, which just did not make a new high, for reasons that we just discussed, the power of this move down made a new high unlikely. Now it's a different thing, right? Just a trap zone until it resolves itself. So I understand, what happened here, and I don't actually disagree with taking an entry right here. I think my expectations would be much lower, and therefore I would not take it. See the power of move down as something that's going to stop this move up in its tracks. You guys agree with that? This was not like a normal pullback. Kind of a nosedive. It will have some power, but I like this profit take right here. I just don't want to turn this straight into loss. So I think Whale Complete is correct there. I think you did a good job with that. These entries, I'm not a big fan. I think this is sideways bound for a long time. I do think you were right. You took a couple pushes, you got out, got another attempt to move up, you got out over here. I get that. Well, why not find something that's in a trend or in a power trend? And just, even if you show up late, um, these ones take off later in the day. This one probably around 12:30 started moving up. If it went up at all, but it would have to kind of, let's establish these highs, establish these lows. It looks like the lows are increasing. If something broke through, then it would probably take off later on. But so I'm just giving you a little analysis of that. It's hard to say in terms of following the checklist, Greg, because of what this has done, the expectations of the play. Kind of massacred the eye so much later. So to me, it's more like a scalp, kind of like a look to be all out. This was powerful. The loss of red here was powerful, and then you get 2 or 3 pushes, and you're done. I think what happens with that play. It's not wrong. Just because we enter here, we put our stop at max loss per trade, doesn't mean we're excited to see it collapse and come down here. And when we do this and we see this, so assuming that we entered up here and we had a max loss per trade, what will we do after we see this sharp red move down? How would we be adopting things? Right? I mean, after it's made this red move down and it's pretty much wiped out 100%, what's the odds of this? Like, and what do we do? Yeah, our whale complete turns into this. So, you know, and I think when something smashes the odds of a new high by taking out everything like that, you're okay to get out. I mean, I know that's probably how Jan and Tony and I would trade the checklist. You have to remember that something that's, I think, a little confusing on there that we have to make clear is that you are allowed to end a trade at whale complete if it's just not a nice one anymore. Right? Something has happened that destroyed the odds of following through. So maybe I'll point that out in a future one. So thanks for sharing that, Greg. Now, Simon, here we go. This one's really dark, but I think people will be able to see it. Let's see. This was Twitter. I seem to recall this. I think I played this one too. Interestingly, I just played this tiny little buy setup and took profits up here near the high. And I also got in right here, and I think I got just above right here. The 2 push profit take after the red bar ignored. Yeah, Twitter fell off a cliff, and it was worthy of a shot at a move up. So taking a long right there is not a terrible idea. I think it was just too big for you, of course. Right? Your max loss per trade is $90, and if you waited for a confirmation, yeah, you might have properly been able to set your risk. It's okay to just go in one lot too. It's not ideal. We just talked about that. We want you to choose things that allow you to play with 2 lots. Sometimes you get things and you're like, I have to try this. I would rather you do 1 lot than this, right? you absolutely have to try this. Do one and add here and adjust stop here. And sometimes that's all you get. So that's for the people that have like gone through the checklist already and done this a while. Not saying to make a practice out of that. You really can't follow the checklist properly if you don't have 2 lots. But every once in a while, you see something, you're like, the position is perfect. Let's see what happens with 1 lot. And then, like, a lot of times, especially on our trend things, you'll get a second chance to add and adjust your stop. Sometimes Oliver will also say, like, enter 1 lot here, stop here, and then do this like a second trade. Like, enter above here with a tiny stop on the second lot, but you're going to keep the original stop for the first one. And then you might survive until here. Well, I get that, Simon, and it takes practice and going over it like this to start tackling. Yes, you would be looking for longs, Gustavo. It takes going through this to figure out where those mistakes are, right? Going over it together and making sure that you don't do that. And you know, sometimes it might be 3 or 4 times before you can get your risk under control. So, you know, I'm glad you shared that so that we could kind of go back over it. You guys are being really good about, you know, taking the hits and sharing your losses so that we can go back over it and change how we look at it so that we're on the right side of things. It's just a small thing, getting to the right side of stuff. So thanks for sharing that. Here we've got Betty. Let's take a look at this one. We've got we've got an elephant bar right here. Kind of a wider Fabulous 4, right? You can see that, but a trend has sort of begun. We've got a 2-lot entry, an event stop, followed by a stop and reverse right here. So now we shorted right here, and then took a stop right here. You guys can see what happens, right? So long over here, stop and reverse, and then stop a second time. So Betty got 360 on this one, which is a term that I think Santiago came up with. So you know, elephant bar, you identified location. Now, I mean, what do you think I'm going to say about this? Yeah, it is kind of getting slapped twice. I mean, oh, was it Duani? Okay. It looks to me like we have to talk about a stop and reverse because this is not a stop and reverse. And it's something we want to teach in this session because I don't think we touched on it last time. This is an almost immediate reversal of your entry bar, but it really needs to clear everything. And like this over here, like this stuff, see that? Followed by just catching the 20 MA, like I'm adding right here. This is an add. Like I expect it to fall in here. People are getting in big right here, long. You don't want to be just stopping and going short when like it hasn't even cleared any of the help. This is why we use the Fabulous 4. This is the help. If you're that close to it, you just can't stop and reverse like that because of a few pennies. Right? So that's what we got to be careful of. Yeah, I call this a pullback. See the size of this red bar and the size of this red bar? I mean, look at the body of it, not the tail. It's small. It's a pullback, right? This is what a stop and reverse is. It's got to be like, I wish I could draw a fish, but here's a fish, right? Very dumb looking fish, but here's a fish. It's just kind of swimming along. And that's your elephant bar. And the next bar that comes along has got to be a bigger fish. And this fish has got teeth. So this one's going to be like this big. Not the worst fish I've ever drawn. This is more of a shark. And it's just going to eat that fish. Right? That's what a stop and reverse is, right? And a stop and reverse is this bar being swallowed by a whale net, right? So terrible at Oliver's very good at drawing with the mouth. I'm just terrible at it. But so it's bigger, right? This is bigger than this one. It needs to swallow it whole, all in one gulp. It's not nibbles, right? Over here, we're nibbling, right? And then you get continuation. So Gustavo's asking, would it have been better to have an initial max loss per trade? The 200 SMA was close to the trade. I mean, look, if anything, I would say enter here and then just have it at least down here somewhere. Like, this is clearly the support, right? You guys see that, like, this is the 20, there's the 200. It's a zone, right? And I think below here, now it's going down, right? You guys see that? Below this line, I think this thing is over. But above it, it's doing what it's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to hold, it's supposed to cradle that price like it did, and then you have a nice new high right here. You have an add here, you have an add here, you have a beautiful profit take of like 3 lots right here, and then you just trail out, pivots or whatever. So, so Betty's saying stopped out at a price that didn't print at all. Right here. So she's saying it's a trap zone. I think you're actually above everything, right? It's where it triggers. Guys, on VBSs, don't look at the low of the bar. Look at where it triggers. Look at where it triggers. There's the high. There's kind of the low of the zone. In the 50% of like this zone. Really think that, I know that the low of the bar, this is a different one, right? It's a different one because there isn't a gap. Just like a continuation of a move from the prior day. It opens here, goes straight up, pulls right back into the zone, and it pretty much continues the prior day without any break, right? So, I don't like this being your stop. And so you're going to learn how to like use, there's your trap zone, but you guys see why this is just not an important part of the trap zone? The only thing that's important here is this stuff. That's the congestion area in the end of the day. And that should produce support. It's the most recent thing. This stuff means if it gets into here, it's going to fall. But below, it has to get below here first. And if not, I think longs are totally fine. Just are. So, but don't flip until this clears everything. Now, if this was a red bar that cleared everything, right, went into this zone, and I think in here you have a flip the trade situation. just close it because it stopped, and I would even say it's not going to get back up here if it puts in a power bar and breaks through. Okay. So that's what I would say about that one. Any questions about that one? Yeah, I think it's kind of neat how that opened and started moving, but you will find things that do that, right? Facebook and Apple all the time. It'll just touch back into yesterday's congestion and then it'll rock it off. And I don't want you flipping into that, stopping and reverse on the trade and then getting smashed. So that's why I point that out. All right, now Victoria wrote that this was, I think, 2 big stops for her. Gustavo's asking, is Starbucks too big for a 50K account? Now, Gustavo, we're going to go back over this. It has to do with the average true range and how far, is this Starbucks? It can be, is the answer. It can be. There's also, so the problem that Betty had here was the stop and reverse. There's also nothing wrong with taking a stop and re-entering. Okay? Give it 2 chances. Like, look, this didn't lose the 20 MA. It didn't lose the trend. So if it's still in the trend and it still has, the same odds, give it one more shot. You can do that. Now back to Victoria here. Nice bear elephant bar. We drew in the trap zone. Pretty nice and clear. Okay. Sorted down here. Anticipatory entry. I think that's okay. Event stop probably makes sense. And then, we had a stop right here, right? This one stopped. And then what happened here? It looks like a 3.3 because of this topping tail we re-entered. Okay, totally makes sense. Now I'm going to say this. We already learned once that this is an area of reward, I guess you would say, meaning that it could power up from here. I don't know that I would add right here. Yeah, it wasn't a GVI, but I just don't think there's any reason to add, like you wrote there. So, I do think this is a decent stop. I think it's time to check your losses and get out. I see you took one off here and then took the rest off up here. Totally fine. I see why you're event stopping it, and it just didn't work. I have no problem with that. You know what I do like to see, guys? When you're trying to get in early and it just stops, I don't know about that kind of re-entry when you're just stuck in this little box. I like to see some fluid, violent movement, and then some continuation, like the GBI here. Because this has established that there's power. And this says we're going to keep going. And then you can get some nice profits in here. The reason I bring that up is first event didn't follow through. Second one triggers, but at a higher price. I don't know. It's good position. You can do it, but I almost want to see it start moving and then pull back. When something's just trapped, I don't know about the re-entry. Right? That's what I'm saying. It's just didn't want to go the first time. Now it's giving you an opportunity to enter at a higher price. What does that mean, really? And it's you can do it, but I think it's different than like this one, where this is just like the cleanest pullback we've ever seen, right? This is beautiful, right? Like, okay, that's like right out of the manual in terms of EBSs, right? So what the heck? We'll give it one reentry. This looks like spaghetti on a plate to me, you know? So that's why I say that. I'm like, when all I'm getting is spaghetti on a plate, I don't really look for reasons to re-enter. Because to me, it just says it really hasn't decided yet. I mean, would you agree, Jan? Am I getting too crazy here? I mean, I might be walking the dog, but um, um, yeah, I just like, not only has it not, I mean, it's triggered again, but it hasn't given you any price improvement, and it hasn't really given you like clarity that it wants to do anything there. Yeah, it's a big, strong bounce. Didn't really follow through, and then this didn't even make any low. And I wouldn't add. I certainly wouldn't add after entering here when like your entry bar, which looked like it was going to be profitable, just like immediately gets wiped out. So that's just, and I'm doing this to kind of get you guys to walk through each bar and see the story that it's telling you, right? Yeah, it's like you enter here, and then wham, it takes out the high of your entry bar. And then it starts to go back again, and the entry is what, at 50% of this move to the high of the low? But, I mean, you could also be going this way, which in the end it wanted to do for, you want something that's going to go like this, get here, and go lower, right? You want it to trigger here, you know? So that's where it, you're not wrong for taking this. It's just it's something that doesn't have enough certainty to me. You want it to look like the manual, right? You want it to start looking like the really clean one. I like this one here. Greg, here's a long. Um, I think if we draw in the gap, right, if we draw in the gap here, and then we look at where this triggered, look at the 20, look at the 200, tells us a different story, doesn't it? Yeah, right, Greg. And that's why this is actually a really good one, right? So I like I kind of like that you shared this one because obviously, like you said, it shouldn't have stopped. You should have kept your max loss per trade, although that's supposed to be down here. This is where a lot of people add, and this is a beautiful new high, right? So you took some off, and then you added again, and some other stuff. But draw it in, everybody. Draw this in from low to high. Even if this made a bottoming tail this low, forget about it, right? Because that would be what? That would be 75% of the green bar, wouldn't it? I don't care. Look at where it triggers. It triggers at the 50%. If it triggers, at 50 or above, I think new highs are very probable, especially from this beautiful location. Right? Wouldn't you say the same, Jan? Like, I used to look at it from the perspective, and I just haven't thought about this until Oliver pointed out the other day that, like, if it pulled way back, it was too far. But it's like, if this turns into a bottoming tail and it triggers in the top of the 50%, then you still got a good play. And I think you have that mindset, you'll be a little more relaxed, right? When sitting through a pivot, you might go, oh, this is pulled back 80%. No, relax. That's why the pivot has to come all the way down, right? 50% pullback if you fill the gap, right? And it comes right to the 20 and the 200, right? So, do that. But the interesting thing is that, like, what gives it the odds of a new high is where it triggers, right? Where does it trigger? Now, it could fill in this bar, and it could come back 80%, and it could trigger right here, right? Now, that's different, right? Because if this is 50%, and here we get down 75, now I start going, this is going to go lower, right? But if it immediately slams back up and it triggers up in here, now I'm like, this is going to go higher. Does that distinction make sense to you guys? Where it triggers? Like, way down in here, probably not good. If the place where it takes out that bar is around 50%, I think you have really good odds. It's a very slight distinction. It's when it takes out another bar. That's why you're not anticipating on these pullbacks or anything like that. You're waiting to see where it triggers, and that's where you're going to add, right? And I think this will help you be more patient. And if you need to see this better, make a folder, call it VBS, VSS. Look for any fluid movement first. So step 1 is a fluid movement, right? Step 1, fluid movement. Step 2, does it trigger above or below 50%? You guys should really do this. It'll blow your minds, right? Triggers above or below 50%, and if it does that, does it make a new high or a new low? Right? Do that with 20 charts. You find a fluid movement, watch it pull back in there, and it may, and then the interesting thing will be, now if it pulls back and triggers at 80%, how far does it go? Or if it triggers, like Oliver was talking this morning, in the top third, how far does it go? And you're going to see the ones that go way beyond. You're going to see the ones that just make a new high, and you're going to see the ones that just, like, hopefully get back to 50% and then collapse. Like, if you can make these categories and do that study, you'll be so much more confident. And you'll be so much more confident that you'll be able to look at the chart and go, I don't care what it does. I'm not going to touch it. If it triggers at 50% or above, I'm not going to touch it until it makes a new high or a new low. Like, I don't even want to think about it, because I know from having looked at a million of these that it has a good chance of getting there. And then you'll also start paying attention to the quality of the bars in the pullback, right? Are they smaller than the fluid move up, right? This is how you kind of study this and figure out which ones are the good ones, right? And I say that's important because, right, this is one of the good ones, right? This is one of the good ones. This was also one of the good ones, right? And it escaped. The fluid move up was this solid bar. And when we get a pullback like this, and you see bar 3 and bar 4 here have tails, what are we actually counting? The whole size from top to bottom, or are we counting the color? Just the colored part? Who knows the answer to that when we're looking at the pullback and, like, what's the real size of the bars? Yeah, it's just the color that we're looking at in the pullback, right? So this is actually smaller than the elephant bar, and this is even smaller. And this one's even smaller, right? And then here the color is almost minuscule, and then boom, it shoots up, right? So, think about that. Like we had some big solid green right here, some big solid green right here, some big solid green right here. And then this red is a smaller size, right? Tiny green, tiny red. And then boom, range expansion, right? Range expansion, right? It goes from small range, big range. Think about that stuff because it'll help keep you in. Well, this is right where it was getting going. Greg got nervous. It happens to everyone, right? It's why, we don't let things go. Here's Akka here, right? Love this. I was in this as well this morning. I'm kicking myself about this one because I exited the whole trade accidentally right here. It drove me nuts because I was like, no, I just had a one lot entry and and the same thing with Apple. Well, I let the ADA stop me out when I should not have on Apple, and it's like on both of these trades, I missed a dollar move because of stupid errors. Are you kidding me? How long have you been doing this? I should have gone back in right here, to be honest. It's a great hidden green bar ignored. All right, I'm glad you did, Jan. I was sure of it. I was like, this is the picture of a trade that Jan is in. For certain. That is just beautiful. I just played the green bar ignored here because I was like, this is too good. When I saw this come and take out the green, I was like, I'm in. Stop right here. And so you added right here. Beautiful. I love the profit take here. I think this is a two push. So that, and you got another one right here. Excellent. Big bar stop. You got a new low, which brought you to the pivot stop. Looks like actually you added right here. Green bar ignore. So Wichita added right here. Brought the stop to the pivot, which was a good idea, and then stopped out right here at the 20. I get it. Makes sense. Whoops, what? There it is. Okay. This is one of the ones, Aka, in which, and this is a rule you can add to your checklist. When the bar that stops you out is immediately or almost immediately reversed, which it should look like a 180, you can go back in, stop above the high, just put one more lot back in, and that really would have paid you. And this is like the picture of when that when that works, right? It just gets above this little stop. It's right at the 20. Like, it's so nice that, like, if you weren't in this whole trade and you just saw this, would you consider going in? You probably would. You'd know that it shook a lot of people out and then immediately reversed right at the 20, and you go like, yeah, I can't afford not to take this. Right? So I get that you got stopped out. I don't really like. I think you're getting a bit far to be adding here. Like, how many of these GBIs do you think it's going to form? So, I wonder if you'd have been a little bit more patient with this and given it like a 2-bar. If you were just one lot, because you could perhaps call this sort of a pivot stop. I don't know. That might be fudging with it too much, but I just, it's not doing anything that's really saying that this trend is over, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's when something hasn't really hit the 20 yet, and the place where it's kind of stopping you out is like right there at the 20. I have just, if it's just a few pennies, I really have a little more patience. You know what I'm saying? Um, Meaning that you've got a nice big bar stop here. Maybe you just leave it. This was a new low, and I don't know. God, this is okay. This is one of the times where I would just break the checklist here for a second and go, I want 2 bars on this, or I will re-enter if this stops out. Probably a better way to say it, because I know on color, because this is but you named this a pivot stop, and that's kind of why I'm giving you a hard time. If you name this a pivot stop, this has got to be a 2-bar break, and that's not a 2-bar break, right? So you're saving me here from going against the checklist by naming this a pivot stop. I suppose you can name it that, but it's kind of a color stop too. So I just see this fluid move down, between this solid red and this whole area. I think needs to hold. Seems to have held in the bottom half, right at the 20. I'm a little hesitant to start jamming it down. It's not wrong. I mean, where did you get out of this one, Jan? Did you jump out here, or the failed new low? I can see getting out on the failed new low. Yeah, you got out at 6. So basically, like, can you all see that? Like, boom, here's your first pullback, failed new low, trade is done. Okay. So this absolutely should have continued. Did not. This is whale complete. Jan is out. But I think if you're going to trail this, I think you got to give it a 2-bar stop. So not wrong to do that. This one I think had more legs. So anyway, that's all the journals for today. Tony was having trouble. We're going to start going into teaching the checklist on Wednesday. Do we have any questions from you guys? Yeah, you're welcome. No, it was a good day actually for a Monday, right? There was some good action for a Monday. I hope you guys are staying out of trouble here and sitting on your hands with all the excitement with Bitcoin and Ethereum. How many of you guys own Ethereum? I got a bunch of those last year, and I gotta say these numbers that Oliver's throwing out are blowing my mind. But Ethereum's over 33 right now. Just sitting here watching this, going, "Oh my God!" Any of you guys talk to people and you're telling them to buy Bitcoin, and then you spend hours arguing with them over and over again, saying exactly the same stuff? I'm just amazed at how many people that have nothing to do with each other, I'll talk to them about Bitcoin and get the same sequence of arguments, all of which apply to the current monetary system. But because this is new, for some reason they feel like it applies more to them, even though, isn't it crazy? None of these arguments that people make could not be applied to your bank. I'm like, well, why not just rob the bank? Like, if they're gonna do all this stuff to Bitcoin, which is like, you know, the concept of like hacking every single one of these mining computers at the same time, uh, which would require like just this massive computer system. It's like, why not just buy it? Why not just buy Bitcoin? Or why not, you know, hack into some Federal Reserve thing and change the numbers? Like, that's what just astonishes me. I'm like, what if this? What if that? Oh, you know, Warren Buffett doesn't like it. I'm like, well, Warren Buffett, like, you know, like, since when did you ever take any of his advice? You never took it before, but you are now. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I just find it astonishing because I keep going over and over and over. I'm like, guys, just get some, like, family members, friends, like, you know, like, listening to it just astonishes me. But they'll go and, like, you know, buy Tesla. Sure, just jump in right now. Okay, but doesn't Tesla own a bunch of this stuff? You know, so I don't know. Anyway, what do you think, Jan? Shall we wrap it up for today? And yeah, I know it is disrupting things, right? No, thank you guys, and I'm glad to see you all back. Those that are coming back, welcome new people. We're going to get you through how to do all this stuff. You're going to love it. And, we're going to get you guys doing it. It was hard hearing me again. Sorry about that. All right, I'll work with that microphone. See if I can get the volume to work or get the mic to work. All right. Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? I don't think my ego has got big enough for that yet, but if I turned on the camera, I'd be like, seriously? You know, you could shower or something. I'm like, no, not at 6 a.m. Now it's time for me to go and like have a regular work day. All right. Good talking to you guys. Thanks, Paula. Yeah, I got okay, wireless. All right. Good. My daughter banging outside my door here. She's 16 months. Dad, what are you doing in there? You're making all this noise. Okay, noon on Wednesday. We will talk to you then. So I am signing out, and have a good Monday.